Chapter 27 Mazen Mazen had never liked Ahmed bin Walid. His dislike went back many years to the first time Ahmed had come to Medine with his father, the then Wali of Daim. Mazen, only 10 years old at the time, had been commanded by his father to watch over Ahmed. He'd taken the responsibility very seriously. Ahmed, who had been a scrawny child of 13 years with a too wide smile, had not. Mazen had quickly discovered Ahmed was what people called a free spirit, a sprightly boy who preferred to do anything other than what he was ordered. Unlike Mazen, who got in trouble for disobeying his father's orders, Ahmed was never chastened. Every time he disappeared and Mazen tracked him down, the older boy would smile innocently and say, "Yeah, Mazen, I thought you were behind me the whole time. Where have you been?" Later, when Ahmed offered that explanation to the adults, they forgave him and turned their ire on Mazen. Smiles were Ahmed's preferred currency. With them he could buy anything he wanted: affections, possessions, even connections. Everyone was taken in by his smiles. Everyone except Mazen. Even now, sitting before Ahmed and Omar's body, he could not shake his dislike. It was the Wali's goddamned smile. It was too wide, too bright. A strange jovial mask. He was wearing that smile now, as they sat in the diwan the morning after the gathering and spoke at length about things Mazen did not care about. "You remember the hunter with the sweet tooth, Isa? He came to see me before he traveled north." Mazen supposed if he were Omar, he would know what Ahmed was talking about. This was why he pretended to listen, nodding his head and offering a comment when he thought it was safe. But his mind was elsewhere. It had been ever since the incident in the dune. He could not stop thinking about the collar. He was still trying to convince Aisha to dispose of it. Earlier, when he confessed to her that he'd nearly been possessed, Aisha just rolled her eyes and said, "You are always almost possessed." She told him that collecting relics for Omar was part of her responsibilities as a thief, and then she ignored him. She was still ignoring him, which was why she had opted to wait for him on the Diwan steps rather than join him inside. "But enough about me." Ahmed reclined on his divan, lips curled in a satisfied smile. "Tell me about your recent journeys, Sayyidi. I see you found a new relic." Mazen nearly choked on his breath when he realized Ahmed was eyeing the enchanted bangle on his arm. If only. He pressed his fingers to it. "I am afraid this is just a flashy family heirloom." Ahmed laughed, a soft, breezy sound that made Mazen bristle. "And here I thought you favored utility over sentimentality. The only flourish I've ever seen you allow yourself is your earring." He tapped his ear, raised a brow. "Have you traded one piece of jewelry for another?" Mazen swallowed a nervous laugh. Omar had insisted no one would notice his missing earring, but of course the annoyingly attentive Wali Adaim was an exception. "You are as sharp-eyed as always. I removed it when we were traveling to the city. We had to weather a sandstorm, and I thought the earring was safer where the elements couldn't reach it." It was a spontaneous and shoddy fiction, so Mazen was relieved when the Wali grinned and said, "Ah, a sandstorm. A great way to start a quest, to be sure. I hope the rest of your journey has been more pleasant?" "It's been hellish." Mazen cleared his throat. "It's been, tedious." "Oh, I told you yesterday we ran into some trouble on our way here." "You told me you had to deal with a troublesome jinn, but didn't elaborate." Ahmed leaned forward, arms draped across his knees. Somehow he managed to make the slouch look refined. "But you must enlighten me. What happened?" Mazen hesitated. What was the danger in bragging? He had overheard his brother boast to Ahmed about his kills before. After all, he reached into his satchel for the relic, which Aisha had packed with the rest of his belongings in case question of ownership were asked. They both knew Omar would never have yielded the relic to one of his thieves for safekeeping. Of course, that didn't stop Aisha from holding on to the satchel when they weren't in someone else's company. It's quite the story. He gave Ahmed the short version, omitting the bits about him and Luli being possessed. At the end, Ahmed released a low whistle and eagerly held out his hand for the relic. Mazen handed it over. "Amazing." Ahmed turned the collar over in his hands. To think such a small thing could contain such power. Mazen shrugged. He hoped it looked characteristically nonchalant. Isn't that the way it always is with relics? It is impossible to tell their worth through appearance alone. He could not stop his eyes from wavering to the bangle as he spoke. It was hard to believe his own body was a hair's breadth away, that all he would have to do to be himself was remove it. Ahmed looked thoughtful. True enough, though I can't say I've come across enough of them to know for certain. He laughed as he set the collar on his lap. I am amazed the night merchant hasn't tried to barter this off of you. Oh, she's tried, her and her bodyguard both. He quickly changed the subject. You seem to know Al-Nazari well. Do you do business with her often? I have seen the midnight merchant on many occasions, but no, I have never purchased anything from her. I prefer to not rely on jinn magic I do not understand. Mazen raised a brow. What point is there in meeting with a merchant if not to buy something from them? Ahmed smiled. I enjoy her company. Mazen opened his mouth to say something and said nothing. Ahmed chuckled at his confusion. Is it so strange I enjoy spending time with her? Luli al-Nazari is like a candle. She lights up even the darkest of nights with her smile. Luli al-Nazari, a candle in the night? She had seemed anything but warm to Ahmed at the gathering last night. Was the man simply in denial? Ahmed either didn't register Mazen's shock or ignored it. I think the two of us are well matched, he said with a dreamy look on his face. At least I like to hope so. Mazen tried to imagine Luli al-Nazari, perpetual storm cloud, standing beside the ever-shining Ahmed bin Walid. He did not realize he was laughing until the smile faded from Ahmed's face. Does something amuse you, Saidi? You amuse me, Ahmed. Luli al-Nazari is a wanderer. If she is married to anything, it is the desert. The look on Ahmed's face was uncharacteristically stoic. You speak as if you know her, Saidi. But she is not just a pawn for you, a means to an end? Mazen stared. How did he respond to that honesty? How did Omar respond to it? My relationship with the merchant is none of your business. He did not have to put effort into making the words icy. What does this have to do with your infatuation? Ahmed considered him for a few moments before leaning back and loosing a breath. Nothing. I only meant to imply she was other sides of which you are unaware. If you knew about them, you would not find our relationship so strange. He smiled, but it was a smile that did not reach his eyes. The awkward silence that ensued was proof that neither of them was eager to continue the conversation. It was the opening Mazen had been waiting for. He stood with a sigh, stretching slowly to make it seem as if he had not been anticipating this moment since his arrival. I am too restless for these domestic scenes, I think. He flashed what he hoped was a convincingly Omar-like smile. I thank you for your hospitality, but I am afraid I must be going now. I need to map out our travel route before we leave tomorrow. Ahmed's responding smile was stiff. Of course, Saidi. Will you at least be able to attend the meeting with the other hunters tonight? The meeting of the jinn hunters was apparently a monthly gathering in Dime. Aisha had provided an explanation last night after Ahmed personally invited them. Neither Mazen nor Aisha was keen on Mazen's attendance. Mazen because the last thing he wanted was to listen to killers brag about the blood on their hands, and Aisha because she doubted his ability to lie convincingly about having that blood on his hands. Mazen settled for a non-committal answer. Time permitting, I will be there. A dent appeared between Ahmed's brows at the response. Mazen cringed. Stupid! Why would Omar pass up the opportunity to flaunt his prowess? But it was too late to take the words back, so he did the next best thing. He fled before he could dig himself into a deeper hole.